I'm Dr. Keith Johnson, and what you're watching is a humanities class in action. And I was told by the technicians that I should first start the tape by introducing myself. So let me do that. Keith, this is Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson, this is Keith. It's nice to meet you. Would you mind teaching humanities class? I'd be glad to. Okay. First thing we're going to do is understand in humanities how important it is for you to have talent, which we've talked about before. I want you to use your talent in writing to understand that in humanities there are many, many people that have influenced history and are still influencing it. We're going to talk about Michelangelo later. Michelangelo is still influencing not only history, but religion and theology, and you and your grade, I hate to say. By the same token, we're going to talk about being a commentator. Some of you who write need to write. The idea of humanities is for you to pursue your dreams and to do your talents. If you can sing, you should sing. Later on I'm going to sing and you're going to find out I can't. But the standard understanding is that if you can write, you need to write. You need to use your influence to write, which is a strong part of humanities. If you can write a poem, you need to write a poem. You need to find out what your dreams are and what your talents are and where you can go. And social commentary has come from the humanities, and it's still coming from the humanities. Newspapers, computer, internet is all a part of the humanities. As I mentioned to you before, everything you're wearing, every place you sit, every desk in front of you are part of the humanities. And what I've done is I've taken one of my newspaper articles, one of my most recent, dealing with the BP oil leak, and I've put it in front of you so you can see how being a part of humanities and writing the articles, you hopefully can influence what goes on in society. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to look at the article I've placed in front of you, and I want you to read along with me.
The oil leak that BP is taking full responsibility.
Wait. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean read along with me. I meant read along with me. Okay. The oil leak that BP is supposedly taking full responsibility for is much worse than we think. And ever since it happened, always was. I do understand that even applaud a positive attitude and the feeling that everything is going to turn out all right. But there comes a time when we have to realize that all it takes to face total disaster is for good men to do nothing. And if we care anything about our future, this is the time to act. Sometimes we have to go by instinct, and even more important, whatever direction actually comes from the heart. The problem with going with your heart is that there are not necessarily statistics to back up your personal action. I knew in my heart the first time I saw the national broadcast of the oil leak that it was much worse than we were being told by BP. BP was the first to tell us it wasn't as bad as it looked. My inner antenna went up in that statement. Not only is this bad, but it's worse than it looks, and far worse than we are being told. Now I hear of our initial fears, and now someone thinks I am blaming BP for the lack of information or its ludicrousness. I point out blatantly that BP and anyone else may tell us whatever they want to think. But if we choose to simply accept whatever is said without investigating its authenticity, then it is our fault, not theirs, for propagating a lie. My heart first told me that the sea animals were about to be affected and even killed in untold numbers as soon as I saw the oil coming out of the pipe. The color alone told us it was not a part of the ocean and should not be in the presence of animals and swim in water and breathe air. Imagine sitting in your living room about to watch TV or being called to a family dinner or walking in the grocery store, and suddenly, without warning, an oil bubble comes through the air and explodes in your mouth. If your swallowing of that oil doesn't kill you, it will certainly make you desperately ill. That's what's happening to those who live in the sea, or even depend on it for a living, don't we all? Well, certainly not many, so you say to me. Well, how many is it killing? And what kind? And what number of how many die doesn't matter. The largest whale lives on minuscule plankton that you and I can hardly see. Can those plankton live without the oil? And what other fish and sea animals exist that you and I don't know that are now swallowing oil instead of oxygen? How many have to die to make this a tragedy? 6, 2, 12? Have that many already died? Of course, on the first day of the leak. Now, hundreds and thousands after that. I had a housewife who sees me once a month come into my office with tears in her eyes. I said, "Excuse me, are you crying?" She said, "I'm sorry." She tried to wipe the tears out of her eyes and not talk to me while she was crying, but she burst out again. She said, "I just saw a TV picture of a pelican behind an oil that some vet was trying to save. It broke my heart. He died while the vet was washing the oil off of him, trying to save him." Those of us who've worked in broadcasting have learned to work with the estimates of statistics. If I get a letter from a listener on my radio program, I can estimate that there are probably 200 listeners for every letter I receive. By the same standard, 400 viewers for every response from the TV program. At least 30 readers from every response to this article. And I would say we can estimate that for every pelican you see TV fighting for his life, bathed in oil, there are 500 out there you will never see that will die before we can reach them. I don't have statistics, but my heart says they're dying in multitudes. My heart also tells me that for their own sake, those supplying us with statistics about the amount of the oil leaking are downplaying the effect and results of what is really happening to our entire world because of this tragedy. And to call it not a tragedy is to downplay it too much. 1 million or more gallons have been leaking into our ocean since day one. Millions of sea creatures, birds, and other animals are being killed every day that this continues and will for many months, even years, until it's controlled by the government. Our oceans are dangerously polluted. Because of my own naivety, I believed BP when they said it would soon have it under control.
And let me define the greatest tragedy coming.
They still say that.
Businesses and people will
They say they care about the tragedy as much as I do. I'm finding it hard to believe. So what can we do? We can stop the leak. We can tell the truth. We can find people capable of giving specific and great help, no matter what it costs. All resources from any country offering help should be solicited and accepted, and everything must be diverted to this casualty before it gets worse, because I guarantee you it'll get worse. And let me define the greatest tragedy coming. Businesses and people will turn to the government for money and answers, and the government will take control of businesses and agencies and be responsible for making most of this important decisions, and we as people will give up our power to control our own future and turn it over to the government for the sake of money. They do now, they will more later, and we will have lost our democracy. And that's exactly why I called this article "The Greatest Danger of the BP Oil Leak." Let me mention to you a couple letters that I got from people that read it. Baby boomers, General X and General Y, and the future of Generation Chaos, seems to me that they all have heated attack and video games. I'm glad that I grew up during the times when potatoes grew underground and had to be dug up. I'm worried about where we're going as a country. Somebody else wrote, "It's like deploying 2 nuclear subs and shooting them in the same direction, watching them explode." It's a tragedy. There's only one person that can change the tragedy. Me or you.